Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Smack Talk Live. I am Coach Lonewolf, and we have some, I guess, exciting news to talk about this week. I guess I have to eat crow because I did not think it was going to happen. But Major League Baseball has come to terms with their union, and we're gonna have a baseball season.
Well, let's be honest here. I think it's more like Major League Baseball forced terms with the players because of the way that their agreement was back in March, where the commissioner just said, "This is what we're going to do," and the players eventually just reluctantly went along with it. That's what it feels
Yeah,
like to me.
I think part of it was that I do think part of it was that the players were like, if we don't play at all, we're not getting paid anything.
Yeah, I mean that's really and look, and for some of these guys, they make a ton of money, they may have investments, they may have things banked, they may be in good shape. But a lot of these guys, they're not making top dollar, so they probably really need to play to sustain their livelihood. So that may be a driving thing within the players association itself, you know, when it comes to actually making this decision. No, the usually the top player or top players are guys who have more of a voice or are at the head of that. But I gotta believe that some of those guys, would have interjected and said, "Look, I gotta play to live, man. I only, I hate to say it, I only make $400,000 or $500,000 a year or whatever it is, but for those guys on a shortened season, that may be not that much money, and that's what they got to live off of." So
Right, and there's still a few, things to work out. There's an
right,
article here that the Blue Jays still don't know where they're going to play. It's
yes, yeah,
so they got to figure that out. There are some cities where these major league teams play that are seeing now a spike in COVID, and so there's a higher risk there.
hmm
Um, but we've beat the COVID thing into the ground here,
yeah,
and you have to make a choice for yourself. If you don't want to play, don't play. If you don't want to go to games, don't go to games. You just have to, um, you know, we can't just sit at home until this thing is resolved because we don't know how long it's going to take. Yeah, so we have to move forward somehow. Um, an interesting article I read here is that the Giants are going to let their fans display cutout images of themselves in the stands. So, um, but again, how do you get your get your fans you know involved
engaged in
somehow?
the process, yeah. And
There
look, they can't
is
be there, right? They can't be there, so
there is $100 fee if you're not a non-season ticket holder, though.
oh, really? Even not
Yeah.
really? Come on.
Any way to make money, Lone Wolf. That's what these owners are about.
I
Any way
know,
to
I
make money.
know. Boy, oh boy, yeah, $100. I mean, come on. The average American here, they can't afford that. Maybe it's 50. Come on, what are you doing here?
Right. So season ticket holders don't have to pay anything. If you're not a season ticket holder, it's $99 fee. Now
hmm
it doesn't say if that is just a $99 fee for all the games or just one game.
Well, and here's the thing, and we haven't talked about this much, and that's something that I haven't really read much about. So, season ticket holders for any sport, where do they stand? Are you going to charge them the full amount of what they would normally be charged if you say have a licensing fee or something of that nature, right? So I mean, a lot of teams will charge that, and they'll do it per year. Now some don't. Some it's a one-time fee, blah blah blah, whatever it is. But some of them will charge you a fee every single year. So now you come to baseball if you're a season ticket holder, and I don't know because I didn't do the research on this as to whether each team will do this, but if they've charged fees, is that a prorated fee now because they're only playing 60 games? And let's just be honest. I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit, but are they going to play all those games? I don't know. But if they do, are they going to only charge people a prorated fee for 60 games?
Again, you would think it'd be prorated.
Right.
But you got to remember this: a lot of people that are season ticket holders have already paid that.
Yeah.
So what I could see them doing is crediting them for next season just to kind of get them tied in the future. So people are like, well, I'm not going to pay this again next year. I already paid it once. But now if they say, well, since you already paid it, we're not going to give you your money back, but we will credit you for towards next year's cost, just to
Sure.
keep those ticket holders you know on board. But you would think teams would do something. You almost have to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically paying for Major League Baseball. You're basically paying for 81 games, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I didn't really read the whole plan because I was just kind of shocked that they even
Came to a
you know
disagreement in the first
ca-
place. Yeah.
right. So I don't even know if they're going to do this clumped regionally. If they're just going to play games, try in certain locations, or if
I
there's
did
going to be.
not see any of that in what I read, and I read a couple different articles from a couple different sources on this before we had the show. I didn't see any of that, and so right now, here's what gives me pause about this whole thing. Okay, so and we've been saying this the whole time. We didn't really think that they were going to have a season. Now we're shocked that they're saying they actually are. But I don't want to go on the record. Well, maybe I should, right? Call it out. They're not going to have a season still. I kind of feel that way because they're saying they said nothing about doing it regionally or anything. They're ordering spring training to take place by July 1st, and
Yep.
all teams are doing this in their home cities. And from what I understand, they're just playing games like they normally would. So go to whatever city and play your games, and you do your stint of 3 games against 3 or 4 games against another team, and then you go on. Uh, I don't think they said anything about that at all. So it feels like to me, they didn't approach it with the way the NBA approached it. And I understand it's maybe easier for the NBA to do it in one location, but baseball had nothing of that I saw. It was just business as usual in terms of where they were going to play games.
And I'm just skimming the ESPN article, and the season is expected to begin July 23rd or July 24th,
Right, right.
and last until late September. Um, and it says, I'm assuming, yeah, that you're right. They're going to just play games as normal because it says clubs may permit fans to attend games with approval of Major League Baseball and relevant local authorities.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like here in Wisconsin, we don't have, it's all local ordinances and
Right.
orders. There's nothing statewide anymore. If Milwaukee County says, yeah, we don't care, go ahead. Our county's already a mess. So
Right, it
who,
is.
who
Yeah.
really cares?
Yeah.
You know?
I
Um,
just think that plan, they talk in some other articles I read about, the virus and stuff, but they really aren't taking that into account with this plan for the sport. And if you really want to play the sport, you have to have healthy players. So if that's your plan, I really don't think that that's going to address the issue and really allow you to move forward with your season. I don't.
Yeah, I just think this is one of those things where they both sides are like, hey, we got to at least have an agreement here,
Yeah.
and we'll work things out as we go.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah. That's what a terrible way to do it. I don't know. It just, there's
well,
no preparation. I don't know.
you know, we've been very critical of Major League Baseball the
Yeah,
last like month and a
definitely.
half. Um, they seem to be the one major sport that continues to just fumble when
Yeah.
it comes to major issues.
Right.
It just they can't get on the same wavelength, and it's just issue after issue after issue.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see. Um, you know,
Yeah. I mean, I think the jury's out as far as okay, so that's what they say right now that they're going to have a season, but I honestly I still feel the jury is out on them actually having a season. Let's just be clear. That's my feeling after I read that article, and then I looked at a couple other articles, like I said, from a few other sources out there regarding sports. I still feel like that's the case. There's a lot of things to overcome, um, and yeah, they have protocol for individual testing and things, but it doesn't feel like they really have a comprehensive plan on where they're going to play games, how they're going to do it, and it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of factors that could deter this season from happening. And some of them, and granted, okay, and maybe I'm being a little critical of them. Some of them may be on their control. You know, I
right.
mean, like this whole Canadian thing. I mean, the Canadian U.S. border. It's as far as I know, the prime minister there had sealed the border, like you mentioned earlier. So the Blue Jays are in a position where do we what do we do until July 21st? We can't come in the United States. Maybe we can practice and maybe we can try to do something, but I don't know. They
Well,
can't play until I don't know. So it's
if their players are already in the U.S., though, that's the
sure,
thing.
yeah,
If
yeah, if they're already there, yeah,
so I don't know, but yeah, it's gonna be yeah, like you said, one thing could totally throw this plan into the trash for Major
yeah,
League Baseball. Um, and now and it'll be interesting because it's only 60 games. So
right,
normally in baseball you think if they do play a season, normally you think okay, in your first 20 30 games, if you're 500 or a little bit below 500, it's not the end of the world because you got 100 more games to play.
hmm
Not anymore. You need to start off fast because you know you fall 4 or 5
right.
games behind it with only playing 60 games. um you could be in a world of hurt.
I
To
mean,
try to,
this is your run. This is your stretch run right away. Right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that might actually make baseball a little bit more exciting because you're not going to see these players taking days off here and there,
Right.
just for a day of rest. You're not going
Yep.
to see that. You're not going to see, you're probably going to see teams using pitchers more often because they don't have as many games,
hmm
and you need to win more,
Oh,
obviously.
right.
So
Yeah. No,
uh,
you'll see your star guys going more
so
than you would normally see during the course of a 162 game season.
so that'll be interesting,
Coach,
to
I
see.
wonder if this actually goes forward, and I still have some severe doubts about it, but if it actually goes forward and they do it, I wonder if people will gravitate to a short baseball season and say, wow, this is something that we could get on board with. Now, I mean, I know owners would be very resistant to having a lot less games because it's, in their opinion, it's less money. But maybe it wouldn't be, depending on how ratings go and things would work out if that were the case. I don't know.
Right. That's the thing. It'll be interesting to see what their rating numbers are with a shortened schedule, to see if people are more tuned into it.
Right.
But let's be honest. They've talked about shortening the schedule, almost every year, but I don't,
Yeah.
not by as this much. I think it like take maybe 20 games away or something, something like
Sure.
that. They're not going
Well, it never
to,
happens though,
yeah.
either. I mean,
Well,
it
yeah,
never occurs.
Be-
Yeah.
because what happens is the union and the owners realize, oh, hey, we can make more money if we have more games, and
Yeah.
that's why the NFL is looking to add games, and it's all money
But
driven.
yeah, and it is, and the thing is, with the NFL, that it's not broken, right? So don't add another game or two. And I know they did all those changes already, and we're going to have two preseason and 17 games, but well, we'll see.
Yeah,
But at
we'll
the
see.
same time, I mean, baseball doesn't need to add any more games. I don't think even the most diehard baseball fan would say we need 180 games in a season. That's no, no, no,
Right,
we don't. We really don't.
right.
So
So again, there's headway. There's actually movement in a
there's
positive
actually
way
movement. Yes.
for baseball. Um, so we'll see where that all goes. On the NBA front, they released um, their schedules. Um, you know, for at least for the first couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So that is happening. They both the NBA and the union have signed off on the terms to restart the season, so that's gonna happen. The NBA is
Right.
happening. This is a done deal. It's
Oh, it's a
gonna
done
happen.
deal. Yep.
Um, and I think this article is interesting. There's an article with Adam Silver basically saying we're moving forward. Nothing is risk free. Basically saying we know that some players are probably going to get COVID,
Yeah.
but we have to do this. And I think
Right.
that's the sentiment of not just athletes, but just people in general. It's like we know there's a risk, but at some point we have to kind of take a risk if we want to work or go on vacation, do the stuff. We have to take the risk. Um,
Well,
so
and within reason too.
right, right,
I think, I mean, this is a contrast, as we've said many times. The NBA has a plan, right? They've had a plan for a long time. They've been working on this, as opposed to baseball, where it feels so disjointed. They're all over, and they've been fighting about it. Some players have expressed some displeasure about how things have gone, but NBA hasn't backed away or changed their stance on it, and they've worked together with the Players Association to get where they are. They did have some positive tests, but their reaction to it is what it should be. They said, okay, well, we expected that there were going to be positive tests when we came back in, and we tested over 300 players,
right,
and it was about 5% of the players that tested positive. Um, some of them came out and said who they were. Some of them didn't. Malcolm Brogdon is one I can think of. He said he tested positive. So, but they just said, hey, great. We expected that there was going to be some. We're glad it wasn't a lot higher, and we're still going to go forward with our plan. As you said, they've announced some of the pairings for some of the games already, to be taking place in Orlando. So
yeah. So yeah, and I think if people were looking at the NBA plan and all this restart and thinking, oh, they are totally going to be isolated from COVID, that's absolutely ridiculous.
mm-hmm.
It's limiting the risk of having
Right.
a widespread outbreak of COVID. That that's what the plan is about. It's not to 100% prevent COVID from being spread.
Yeah.
Anything we do, there's going to be a portion of people that get COVID. That's why, people are, oh, cases are going up. Oh, yeah, but testing's also going up. So yeah, the more people you test, the more positive tests you're going to have. I
Yeah.
mean, I,
Well, I
I,
think there's two parts to that, and I don't want to get into the COVID piece too much, but I think there are more cases out there. But like you said, I mean, this sport is moving forward. Here's their plan, and this is what they're going to do. I think the best thing about it is if it works, then they provide some entertainment to people while they're at home, and they provide sports. And if it doesn't work and it blows up in their face, people are walking into this eyes wide open after going through the protocol. And if there's an outbreak within the NBA players community, then they're done. They'll shut it down and they won't go forward with it. I have to believe that that's the case because they won't want
yeah,
to put an inferior product out there if that happens.
yeah, and I think what's going to happen there is that the only way they're going to close it down is if there's a huge outbreak. Like,
Right.
you know, that's why I think they want to get in and get they have the 22 team restart and they want to get basically down to the playoffs as quickly as they can so they can
Mm-hmm.
eliminate some of these teams. Because as you
Sure.
eliminate teams, then the risk
Less
of
people.
having
Yeah.
right, so I think you're looking at it as um, they want to get in, get moving, and get teams in and out. There's not going to be a lot of mulling and downtime um, for
Right.
people like there normally is at the end of the NBA season. Um,
Well, and
so
hopefully those guys have been training. I mean, they've been putting in the time um, and keeping themselves in shape in the off season, which I imagine that a lot of these guys have. I mean, they're professional athletes, and they have to imagine they're going to play at some point again. So they've been keeping themselves relatively prepared for the moment they may come back.
yeah, and I think you're right on that. It's you know they're gonna move this thing forward and see how it goes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see how it goes. So, um, moving on to want to touch on this because this has been a sport that has had a lot of headlines here the last couple of weeks. NASCAR, and I'm not sure if you read any of this stuff or whatnot. A couple of we talked about this last week with the Confederate flag,
Right.
not being allowed, um, inside the track anymore. But and I'm not sure if you heard of the Bubba Wallace noose in his garage story.
No, I actually hadn't.
So
So,
so
okay.
th- there was a report that somebody had left a noose in his garage, and obviously he's the only you know African American race car driver in NASCAR right now.
Right.
The
When I
FBI
had
went,
heard that he had made some comments in regards to the
yep,
recent events and
yep.
Black Lives Matter and things of that nature. So,
And so the FBI went down and investigated this. And, it's happened at Talladega. So the FBI found out it was not a hate crime. What it was, garages have these pull down ropes for their doors.
yeah, a lot of them do.
Well, the rope was tied up and looked like a noose. I mean, it looks like one, but
Okay.
this has become, I mean, this is taking over. a lot of things because this we get people whipped up into to into a lather
Hysteria, basically. Yeah.
without knowing all the facts.
Right.
Bubba Wallace even said, "I didn't see it. One of my crew members saw it and reported it."
Right.
It's like, when are we going to learn to stop and kind of get all the information before we freak out on things? Um,
That's that's $1 million question right there. I do not know the answer to that one.
so I mean that I found that interesting. People are coming out and saying, "Oh, this is the FBI was wrong," and this and that, and that they didn't overreact. It's like, well, you kind of did, because I mean
Yeah.
the NASCAR even they took a picture of it, and yes,
Hmm.
like I said, when it's there looking at it, it does look like a noose. Yeah,
Sure.
but it's attached to a garage door, and it's been there for years. There were pictures of it from years prior that the
Hmm.
same thing. So it's not like somebody just did it.
Did it? Yeah.
So that
I
was
really
one.
think that, I mean, some of this is just trying to make a story out of nothing. And I'm not saying that there's not, I am not trying to discount that there's not racism or something within NASCAR, because I think that I would be remiss in saying that. It's kind of like when Tiger Woods came on tour, and I mean, that was our generation, right? I mean, this guy came up
Mhm.
as a phenom in our generation, and the old guard of golf looked at this guy and said, "Oh, yeah, that's not really what we want." There's definitely racism there. I'm
Well,
not going to
yeah,
deny that, and I don't think we can say that. And with NASCAR being the sport that it is, I think that that's possible. But to me, this feels like people are trying to create something when there isn't something there. That's kind of what it feels like.
right. And it'd be interesting to see too. If like every garage, the rope looked like that. If every rope on the garage doors looked like that,
Yeah.
then come on. So again, we don't have all the information. We have a couple reports from different sources.
Right.
The FBI came out and said this is not a hate crime. We're not moving forward with it.
Right.
Um, but I can, looking at the picture, you can see where somebody may say, "Oh, that's a noose."
Sure.
With just like if you just look at it,
Yeah.
without knowing kind of the context of where it's at and what the function of it is. Um, the
Well,
one
and I
other,
think part of the problem is, though, coach, you look at it and you say, okay, somebody posts a picture on Twitter or Facebook or some other social media platform, right? And it's just a snapshot of one thing, and then they make a comment like, "How is this not a whatever, a KKK symbol or a noose or something derogatory?" And then people start responding just to that without knowing anything else about it, and that's really the problem, right? Like you said, they're not informed. They just see a picture, and that's all they got. So that's really part of the problem, I think.
right now, I will say this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking at some NASCAR headlines. I think this is really bad taste. On North Carolina racetrack owner is offering a Bubba rope for sale.
Oh,
That's
come
kind of
on,
bad.
really?
I,
That's
I, I
awful.
mean, this is if you're gonna get peeved off and want to cause a huff about something, go after this guy, because that's just. I don't care if it wasn't a news and it wasn't considered a hate crime. That's just bad taste. You don't do that. It's like, come on, what are you thinking? It's the
Right.
the guy's name is Mike Fulp, the owner of a half mile speedway in Stokes County. So he's not even like a big time race. It's just a local little raceway like we have in eastern Wisconsin, down in the Kaukauna area. Yeah. So it's like, what are you doing? That's the stuff that we should
Mm-hmm.
be upset about. You know,
Right.
go after that stuff. Um, but I read that article. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. It,
Well, and I look at this thing, and I see some photos, and it does look that way. I guess it just, um, but yes, you're right. I think those are the kind of people that you have to go after. Either people who are making something out of it and taking it further than it should be, or they're trying to make money off of
right, and that's like, oh, he's trying to make money off of it, and um, and basically wants publicity. That's what
it.
he's
Yeah.
doing it for. He knew, the guy knows that is, um, you know, going to, um, cause media attention to him, um, things like that. So,
Right. Right. I
um,
just, yeah, and there's always going to be people like that. I think what we need to do is a response to something like that is to say, look, we don't put any stock in that. Let's just talk about the sport, and let's talk about what kind of driver this guy is, and let's get this stuff out of the sport. And whatever we talked about the Confederate flag and whether that should be in it, that was a huge step for them getting rid of it from their sport. To me, it really doesn't have any purpose being in their sport. It's a dead flag as far as I'm concerned. And whether they want it in there, they're a separate business. They're not a government entity. They can do what they want, but um, they have to put a product out there, okay? And they have to sell that product to all of their fans. They want to put the best product out there that they can, right? That's their goal as a business. So that's the way they felt they should go about it, and I don't have a problem with that.
right, and I'm trying to find it because I don't want to misspeak, but I believe I read an article that they either have and we brought this up last week, um because it was just an article about the anthem before games,
Oh, right,
and
you talked about that. Yeah.
I can't I saw an article. I didn't have a chance to read it, but I believe NASCAR is either talking about it or they've already are saying we aren't playing the national anthem before races
Okay.
anymore. I, you know, I I have a problem with that. I really do. This is it's I just have I have a big problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to get everybody's attention, and basically thank everybody that has given up, family, a loved one, lost a loved one, or their own lives, for us to be able to go to these events and not put ourselves in harm's way.
Yeah.
It's patriotism. I think is part of our problem in this country. We don't we There's such a lack of patriotism in the United States, and I think sports is a big part of that. And if you the sports organizations need to understand they drive patriotism in the country,
They can.
and
Yeah.
and if you start doing away with those things, um then you're basically saying we don't care about the country. That's my opinion on it. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
in the past, I don't have a problem if players kneel during it during the
Yeah,
national
we
anthem.
talked about that.
I
Yeah.
don't have
Yep.
an issue with that. I don't think that's being disrespectful. That's my own opinion. But at the same time, I still think it needs to be played or performed or whatever you want. So
Yeah.
if
I would say, Coach, you're we are looking at a situation that could be something that's political, because some people would say, from their perspective, that it has to be played, and this and that needs to be done. I mean, I tend to be more left leaning politically, but I'm a firm believer in that as well, in terms of being patriotic. I love the fact that when you have a sporting event, there's a uniting thing before you start that event, because usually you have two sides and they're anything but united. But when you start, you say, okay, look, we're all here, we're all together. Let's play this song. It unites every single person that's in that stadium or court or wherever you're playing, right? And there's a cause that everybody believes in before you start. And I don't think any country um, looks at it any different. I mean, the Olympics, I'll give that as an example. And I think this is a great example. When you win a gold medal, what do? They play the
right,
national anthem for your country.
right. So what are
what,
they gonna do?
what's more unifying than that?
Are they gonna go to the Olympic committee and say, "Oh, no anthems"? Just have them go stand on the
Right,
podium. We'll
right,
give them their
right,
medals
right.
and walk off.
Right, it's not appropriate, so let's not do that.
You know, and again, I don't want to get too political, but
Right.
there's political stuff out there that we should change the national anthem. I'm
Yeah,
just
I
like,
don't get that.
I just I'm getting really tired of some of this stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I totally agree. I mean, this is like I said, it's a unifying thing. No matter who you are and what beliefs you have politically, I think you have to. If you live here, you buy into the ideals, and there are different ideals of what you, in the different interpretations of ideals when you live here. But sports is one of those things that the beauty of it is, we can have a friendly competition, and at the end of it, at the beginning and at the end, we can say, guess what, we're all united. And so the national anthem to me is part of that. It means a lot of different things to different people, but I just looked up as we were talking. There's a semi-professional soccer team in Louisiana that was saying that they were going to play "This Land Is Your Land" instead of the national anthem before their games, which, I mean, that's an all right song, but it's not the national anthem. So
Right.
I don't get it. Like, why would you do that?
I mean,
I don't get it. Why?
I seriously, I think if leagues would stop doing that,
Sorry,
you,
Oklahoma, not Louisiana. Let me correct that. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's just
again,
wherever. Yeah,
just my opinion. If the NFL says no more national anthem or what, I'm not gonna watch or go to those games anymore. I
yeah,
won't.
yeah,
I just won't. That is crossing the line to me.
yeah,
Um, that's the biggest thing as a coach when we start a game and we get that gets me tuned in, and it irritates the living what out of me when I see people running around and talking during the anthem. That
yeah,
drives me nuts. That is one
yeah.
of my biggest pet peeves. Um, it's like it's a
Well, there's
2 to 3 minute
no decorum.
thing,
There's no respect. Come on, yeah.
you know.
And that's why I think when we were talking about the kneeling thing, um, what is that detracting from the anthem? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, they're not running around, they're not being obnoxious, they're making a statement in their own way, but they're still being respectful. They're not
Yeah,
talking. They're
it's,
not
it's
being
not like they're
crazy. I
jumping
mean, they're
up and
just,
down, screaming and
yeah,
hollering, flashing gang
yeah,
signs or anything like that. It's just they're kneeling. Whoop-de-doo.
right, right.
Whoop-de-doo.
And if they say that's because of X, Y, and Z belief,
So be it.
okay, but they're being respectful
Right.
still. I don't know. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't. Yeah, the anthem is there. They're still saying what they're saying, and if they're protesting it in a way, well, that's fine. They're still being respectful about their protest. So they're not saying get rid of the anthem. They're saying keep it.
Right.
Still,
And that's I'm just wondering if because this thing is getting so political now,
yeah,
is
it's
that
kind of yeah.
our league's gonna look at it and just be like, you know what, we're just gonna get not play the anthem. Then there's this whole kneeling thing's a non-issue.
One would hope that wouldn't be the case. I mean, and it hasn't always been that way. I mean, I think if you look way back, I'm guessing in the 1880s or something, they probably didn't play the national anthem before sporting events. But there's something to be said about that now. I think it's a fine tradition. I'm not usually an advocate for tradition, but in this case, I'm fine with it. I think we need to keep it and move forward with it. And I hope professional sports leagues don't get rid of it. I really do.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm on the same page there with
Yeah,
that. So moving on here. Quick update on college football. We talked about this last week.
yeah.
Clemson's having a horrible time with COVID. Holy cow. 14 more positive tests on their football team.
Brutal.
Do they even have a roster left?
I don't think so. And this is a national title contender.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, you might as well just get all your guys into a room, expose them to it, quarantine everybody for the 2 weeks, and move on. I mean, seriously, it's.
Right.
I don't know how they can continue to be even having practices. Um, you know,
Honestly, I mean, there have been a lot of articles about whether there's even going to be a college football season um, because of a lot of issues that are coming up, and this is one of the reasons why. I mean, because of this, Clemson thing, and I don't think it's the only thing, but it's just it's kind of a driving force behind some of this. Guys, you got to be smart about this. We talked about this before. They're letting people come back, and I don't know what kind of protocols are in place when they do. I really don't. A
well,
lot of this is driven by the need for them to come back, and a lot of revenue is generated from this. I don't know.
yeah, I really have no idea.
Well,
Um,
here's
this
what I'll say.
is
I mean, okay, so my uncle works at the University of Alabama, and he said that they're really pushing, and I don't want to say too much, but I'll just say they're really pushing to be able to have the students come back, and I think a big driver at Alabama is to have the football team come back because it
oh
generates
right,
so much money for the school.
right, right, and
So
that's the thing. You know, having a college football season is not because they have to have a college football season. 'Cause I'll tell you right now, for some reason the season will get canceled. Guess what? In 2021, fans are going to come out and be just as excited for college football,
oh yeah,
whether or not they'd have this season. Um,
right, right,
it's all about revenue. I mean,
yeah,
some universities they survive because of the amount of money that their football program brings in.
right,
Because, and I think people, that they see these universities build these, you know, phenomenal football facilities,
yeah,
and they think every single dime that the football team earns through TV and bowl games and this and that goes to the football program. It doesn't. It doesn't even all go to the athletic department. That money
True.
gets doled out throughout the entire university and has a ripple effect throughout the entire university. So that's why there's so much emphasis on having a top tier football program at your university because it generates so much money. Because I'll tell you right now, the alumni at Alabama, if you go to an alumni from Alabama and say, hey, would you be willing to donate, $10,000 so we can update our, help update our, you know, engineering
Right.
facilities because you're a graduate of our engineering department, blah blah blah. And he says, oh yeah, our football team's really good and our athletics are good. Yeah, well, sure, why not? I'll put my name on that. But if they're not good, people aren't going to put
Sure.
their name on it. And again, it goes all the way down to even high school. People look at your sports programs. That determines the amount of money you can generate with fundraising and how much support you're going to have. If your athletic programs are solid and are competitive, you have an easier time getting money than if they're not.
It's true.
It's plain and simple.
It is. It's
Not
true.
saying that that's
Mm-hmm.
right. I'm
It's
not
not.
saying,
Yeah. Right.
so
Right.
if
Yep.
your people are listening, I'm not saying that's the right way that it should be.
It's reality. Whether it's
Right.
fair or right is out of the question. It's just reality. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, right now, we just went through our purchasing through our booster club for the upcoming school year. We we got a lot more money donated from the booster club to our football program than any other program, and I think we had 6, 7 conference champions through our entire athletic department, but we got the most money. Well, we also generate the most revenue into our athletic department from our
Right.
games.
Right.
So,
And that's
you
no
know,
different than most major colleges, with the exception of maybe a Duke or something like
right,
that, because mostly the football program is the one generating the revenue as opposed to another sport. Um, with a couple of key exceptions when it comes to basketball, but you know, men's lacrosse or girls swimming or guys cross country or whatever the case may be, it's football and basketball that tend to be the drivers of those things.
right, exactly. You look at these, people get upset at some of these universities because they have to cut certain sports programs because of finances. Well, here's the
Yeah.
thing. Go look at how successful your first your football program, then your basketball, both your men's and women's basketball programs.
Right.
If those three sports aren't good, that's why those lower tier sports get cut
Yep.
because
Because
there's
you don't have
not
the
the
money.
revenue. Yeah, there's not the revenue generated from those other three sports. You look at some universities. Hockey is you look at Minnesota Duluth. If their
Yeah.
hockey program goes in the tank, their athletic department is getting cut. They're getting slashed. Budget wise, they don't.
Right.
The budgets for college athletics when it comes to state money that they get is actually very small, and most of the money that runs these athletic programs are from revenue and donations.
Right.
So if you're not good, you don't get nice stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. And it depends. Yeah, I mean, there's a few other sports that could drive that. Like a Boston University is really good at
Right.
hockey, so that may be the driver of their revenue stream. But yeah, it is exactly right. If they're not good, then they're not getting that. Alumni, they want to see success. I mean, they go to these games. They want to. It's almost like the alumni. They're almost like a shareholder for a company, right?
Right.
They want to see that stock continue to rise. They want to get a good dividend out of it. It's no different than that for a sports team. They want to invest in it, but they want to invest in a winner. So
Right.
you don't put that good product out there, they're not going to invest in it.
Exactly. And it even impacts alumni that don't play those sports. But like, if you graduated this year from, let's say, I don't know, Clemson,
Sure.
and you're interviewing for a job, and somebody else graduated from Maryland, and you both go into this interview, and the guy that's hiring is a huge college football fan,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Oh, this guy's from Clemson. Oh, you're from Maryland." If you're comparable, that can play a factor in their decision process.
I mean, it's
How
horrible to say
it
because
sounds
it shouldn't
absurd,
be that way, right?
right?
But it could be. It could be a
It
deciding factor. Yes.
I mean, my first teaching job, I got hired to coach football because I came from a school that we had just won a state championship.
Yeah.
He's been in a program that can win. That's one.
Yeah. Good, better, and different. It's what it is,
Right.
sometimes. Yeah.
And again, not saying that this stuff is the right way that it should be.
No.
But
just
it's
the
reality.
of it.
It's
And
reality.
so, I mean, really for us, right, Coach, I mean, we're looking at this now and saying for college football in particular, but just college sports in general, those forces are driving a lot of the decisions that are being made when it comes to this. And that's why you get situations like Clemson where they're like, hey, get all these people in here. And, now look what happened. We got all these cases that happened as a result.
Right, and like right here, UNLV has halted all on-campus workouts because of virus.
Yep.
And right here, Washington makes 15% cuts to athletic budget. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
The loss of revenue because you had to cancel the March Madness and the spring sports seasons.
Right.
You didn't have the revenue.
Yeah.
It's
And that's Washington State, right?
Yep, Washington State.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Um,
and they're in the Pac-12 if I remember correctly. So I mean they've got a pretty high profile conference. That's a lot of
yeah,
revenue. Yeah.
I mean, you know, um, and right here, um, the University of Northern Colorado will discontinue men's and women's tennis programs as part of cost-saving effort caused by budget shortfalls created by the coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
They were
Yeah.
cut. So is this just legitimizing what we're saying? Is
Mm-hmm.
that this is it's not that these universities are saying it's so important that we play this so we have games on campus.
Right. Right.
It's we need these teams in here and playing because we need the revenue. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
It's huge to those universities, to all of them.
yeah. I mean, this Northern Colorado, they were almost a $500,000 shortfall, and so they're
it's hurting them big time. Yeah, that's a huge amount of money.
and that just think about what the smaller universities are going through. The
Right.
state level universities, things like that. They're really going to get cut.
Yeah.
So it
and some of them had already been hurting as it is anyway due to budget cuts and things of that nature in some of their respective states. So now if they don't have that sports revenue, man, they're in a tough spot to be able to recover from something like that. So I don't know exactly what they're going to end up doing, but that's going to be an interesting thing to see. I mean, you look at the college sports and you say, okay, and unlike professional sports where they can be impacted by the state. However, they're a professional business organization. They can move ahead with certain things where college, they don't have a choice in a lot of cases unless it's a private college. They have to abide by certain state rules and laws or edicts that are passed. So that can that can supremely impact how they proceed in certain cases. If the state just says, guess what, we're shut down, good luck in trying to play a college football game in a state if that's the case.
Well, right,
You know,
exactly.
so yeah,
And that's the thing, and that's why I think the push is to have, you know, on campus classes. I know there's multiple state universities here in Wisconsin that have said we're doing in person classes in the fall,
yep,
but there
yep,
are universities out there that have already said we're not doing in person class, we're not doing on campus classes.
right.
Well, if you're not allowing students on campus, how can you allow your sports teams on campus?
Yeah, no, you really
Um,
can't. They're still students.
right.
Something that I think is lost in this. They are still students.
And that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because I believe it's the California university system, which would, you know, they got some pretty big universities there that play major
Just
sports,
a couple.
aren't having in-person classes.
Yeah,
Well, then are you still allowing your athletes on campus? Because if you are, and this is where you are going to start seeing lawsuits, because if
yeah,
I'm not a student athlete at a university and I can't go on campus, but yet the football team's not allowed on campus, why? Why can't I be on campus then? And the universities are going to have to answer that question.
I agree. Yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, there's some huge universities in California that are part of that state um, group that have athletics that UCLA, I believe, right? University of
yeah,
California, Los Angeles. I mean, that's
yeah.
kind of an important university when it comes to the sports world.
But now,
So, yeah,
if you're a private university like Stanford's private,
sure,
they they can do that technically because they're private.
sure,
They're
they
not
could.
state ran. They don't get state money.
Mm-mm.
You know. So
No, people pay $30,000 to $40,000 a year to
right,
go there.
right. So they can get away with that easier than a
Sure.
state university. So I still think there's going to be some interesting fallout from all this stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll know more, as probably mid-July, when it comes to the college football season. Um, with seeing how this stuff works out, things like that. And once, you know, athletes are supposedly supposed to be on campus to start their training camps and prep for the fall seasons.
Well,
So
and let me ask you this because I have seen just recently that some people have said, and right or wrong, I just want to get your opinion on this. Uh, People have said maybe we should move college football to the spring instead of
no,
trying to do it in the fall. What do you think?
that not going to happen. That won't happen. Um, you logistically, you'd cause nightmares because when do you start then? You look at it. You start in August and you go basically to January. So you're going 4 months. So you have to be done mid-May. So you're starting in January, right or midst of the basketball season, and then what do you do with the spring sports? There's talk about doing that at the high school level and
Mm-hmm.
flip flopping that stuff. And I'll tell you right now that would be a nightmare scenario, uh, because especially at the high school level. So, okay, so you're going to flip flop. You're going to have track girls soccer, at least here in Wisconsin, girls soccer, um, baseball, softball in the fall. Well, what if all of a sudden we have this a huge spike and schools get closed down again?
Right.
But then they open up again in January. So you're telling me it's okay to have those spring athletes basically lose two seasons? That's where I'm
It's a
looking at
lot.
this
Yeah. No,
because
it's a lot.
I don't think you can just sit here and say we're going to move college football to the spring. You're really putting a lot of stress now on those universities,
Yeah.
logistically wise and facility wise. Could they do it? They could,
Sure.
but I mean, if I was an athletic director, I'd be against it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's already hard enough to find workers to work at games, and now you want to have basketball, you know, men's, women's basketball, football, plus
Well,
spring sports all at the same
look, I
time.
mean, you're not going to have you're not going to have fans at these games. I mean, okay, so you have to be realistic about it. You know, you would love to because college football is all about having that fan experience. I've been to innumerable college football games in my lifetime, and the fan experience is one of the things that makes them. But you can't really do that and expect to not have the virus pinch, so to speak, if you do that. So you're going to have to do that without that. So I don't think that matters if you do it in the spring as opposed to you do it now. Um,
I think and this is my opinion. I think
yeah,
if a university does in person classes on campus, and they get approval from the state, they're gonna
sure.
have fans at games.
I suppose.
Um,
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
and I think what they're gonna do, and
And
again,
whether that's right or wrong, I mean, we could
right,
debate
right.
that forever. But yeah,
But I think what they're gonna look at is that look what's going on. You got thousands of people in the streets daily.
yeah,
No, very few little precautions. Yeah, they're wearing masks, but the stadium, we can do temperature checks, we can sanitize, we can do this and that, and all these different things. And you know, especially for football,
yeah,
most college football stadiums are open air stadiums.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Generally
Yeah,
speaking, yeah,
so
I'd say that's
I think they're gonna look
majority.
at it and be like, you know what, we can do this.
Sure.
And again, whether it's right or wrong, I'm not gonna get into that.
Yeah.
Um, that's for each individual university to decide, I think.
Or if they're a state institution, then the state may step in and say, you can only have 30% of your
Right,
fans in the stadium or whatever. I
right.
don't know, whatever the state says.
And when
Yeah.
you look at stadiums that have the like seating, it's easier to
Mm-hmm.
do. But you look at like Camp Randall, where it's all bleachers. I'm
Right.
sorry, that's your. If you say okay, you only can have 30%, capacity. Well, that 30% is gonna all be packed together anyways. They're gonna, so it's like,
You
well,
can do your best, I guess, to space them out or whatever you want. I mean, you can say, okay, section 100 is going to have this, section 112 will have this. I don't know. I mean, you can do whatever, but I know what you mean. Ultimately, if you're a fan, you also have to make that choice. As you've said many times,
right,
um, you know, are you going to decide to go to that game? Are you going to take that chance?
right,
It's up to you. I mean,
exactly.
you don't have to.
And
I
that's
don't plan on doing it myself necessarily, but I mean, if
right.
you're going to do that,
Yeah, and again, and I've said it numerous times. I think it's just going to come down to universities and even the professional teams are basically are going to
hmm
say, you know what, if fans want to come and take the risk, we will have precautions that we'll do our best to limit the spread, but we're not going to tell people they can't come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people are going to have to make that decision, right or wrong. We're not. I'm not saying either way,
Right.
but things are eventually going to come down to personal decisions. Like, we're supposed to go out to Vegas. We're not going out to Vegas.
Nope.
And I even thought of going out for a couple days. But now there's mandatory masks when you go outside and things like that. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
that just means that it's not very good over there right now. So
Right.
not going.
And
It's a
it's not
decision.
worth it. Right.
You,
Yep. It's
you
a
know,
decision. Exactly. Yeah.
so you have to again make a decision what you feel is in your best interest, and if you don't care and you want to take the risk, go to games. If you
Right.
don't.
Right.
I think
As
that's
long as the area allows it.
right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
if they don't, then don't. I mean,
Yeah.
look,
Right.
if they don't, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go anyway. No, come on, be smart about it, okay? If the government says in that area we're
Yeah.
gonna have a game, but no fans are allowed, don't
Yeah.
don't be
Yeah.
stupid.
Don't break
Just
into the
be okay.
stadium and go to the game.
Right? Yeah, don't do that. Okay, come on. I mean, just be smart about it. So, um, respect that if that's the case, and watch it on TV. And there's that's the thing. I mean, ultimately we've been talking about this quite a bit. We want to have sports because we want to be able to maybe it's an escape. We want to detract from our normal life. We want to enjoy something that's a takeaway from our normal day, and we enjoy talking about it. We enjoy watching it. We enjoy everything about it. And if it can be done in a safe, low risk, not no risk, low risk
Right.
way, then we're all over that. Of course, do it. Great. So respect that and go with it, and enjoy the sports as long as they can happen
Right.
in this current environment.
And personally, for me, I'm not big in going to games. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
a big, I'm not big into the crowds and things like that. I prefer just to sit somewhere, watch it. And that's really from years of coaching. I can't stand listening to people criticize coaches
Yeah.
because you have no idea what it's like. I mean, you just,
Being a coach and listening to people yell at the coaches is hard for you, isn't it?
it's horrible. When my daughter played basketball, I couldn't sit up by the rest of the parents because they'd yell at the officials, yell at the coaches. I'm like,
Oh
I
yeah.
can't sit here. I'm about to snap.
Sure.
So
I know what you mean though. I mean, I've got a couple friends that are officials, have been doing it for a long time. My uncle was an official for about 25 years. And, you hear the stories that they tell you. It's a hard job to do that. And then, like you said, coaching, I mean, and then listening to what they're saying about the coach. Oh, why didn't he do this? Or why didn't he do that? Or, da, da, da. Grab the
yeah.
clipboard and you do it, and we'll see what happens. So
Oh,
yeah, no, I hear
exactly.
you. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
And maybe we'll have have a show where we talk about officiating and the stresses of officiating, coaching, and things. Because
Right.
I got some pretty good stories, from some encounters
Well,
I've had with
you talked
officials.
to my cousin's husband. He's an official right now. A few times, you talked to him at my parents' house. So, I understand the pain of being an official when it comes to
So
certain. Yeah,
so
yeah.
you know
Anyway,
yeah. So I personally you don't go to games. I just that and there it's really expensive. I'd rather spend my money on other
yeah.
things, to be honest. Love sports, but I have a hard time giving millionaires my money when I have other things I want to do. So,
But ultimately, look, we want to see it. So
right,
what we're saying is if you can't go to the game, hey, you can enjoy it if it's out there, and there's no
exactly.
fans at the stadium. go enjoy it. Put it on your 50-inch TV, man. Come on, you got this thing. Or 70-inch TV you got sitting
Yeah.
in your living room, whatever it is. Enjoy it on there. Be there in the comfort with your family. You're safe. You can watch it. You get the entertainment, and that's what sports is ultimately, right? It's an escape, yes, but it's entertainment for you. So enjoy it.
Right. And so let's quick touch on the
Sure.
happenings in the NFL here before we end the show.
Okay.
Not too much going on. The NFL has sent a letter out to all teams letting them know that to expect on-time starts for training camps. So they're not altering their plans for the fall for their season. The Hall of Fame game is officially canceled. That is a game it's sanctioned by the NFL, but it's not ran by the NFL. It's ran by the Hall of Fame
Yeah.
Commission, and so they've canceled it because of the pandemic. Which, to be honest, I don't think anybody really ever watched that game, anyways, anymore. Um, it's
Not
just
really. I mean, let's be honest.
you usually don't see the stars in that game anymore like you used to. Um, so that's really the only alteration
Yeah.
since the draft. Um, but wanted to touch on, we talked about this last week, Jamal Adams wanting a trade, and
Right.
we talked about why hadn't the Jets, Gase or the GM come out and say anything. Well, Adam Gase finally broke his silence.
Who hasn't been
And
available for comments since April, but yes,
yeah,
yep, here he is.
and asked if he wants Adams, and he said absolutely, positively, yes, I want Jamal on our team. That's it. But it came the day after Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, made comments about it. It's like this goes back to the fact that Adam Gase is a nut job.
Oh, he's not a good head coach. I mean, let's just
And,
be clear. He's not.
and I mean, it just floors my mind that a guy like him can get hired twice,
Yeah,
twice
yeah.
in the
First
NFL.
Miami and then New York. I don't
Um,
get it.
and he got
You
hired,
should be a head coach in the NFL. I mean, this guy, come on.
and you get hired by the
Really?
Jets after you run the Dolphins into the ground. He ran
Right.
the Dolphins into the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
There was no
they just
mistaking it. They were just not any good. Come on, people. He was bad. He's a bad coach.
well, that and the locker room was horrible. I mean, that
Yeah.
he
The
was the head
environment was
coach
bad.
with all that, the hazing and all that stuff. That was all
Yeah, it
Adam
was
Gase, and
horrible.
people just all of a sudden forgot about it.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't get that. I don't get it at all. I
so
really don't. And yeah,
um,
so he's there, and so yeah, he says Jamal should be on our team. Well, okay, that's great, but and thanks,
right,
Adam.
and it looks like Adam is trying to work out a trade so he can go be in Dallas.
Okay.
He's made it a little obvious that that's who the team he wants to play for.
Oh,
Um,
out of the other teams that we mentioned last week about who he wanted to
right,
go
yeah,
to. Yeah. Okay. He came out and
he's
basically said, "Let's go to Dallas." Yeah.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
made some social media posts, things like that.
Okay. Okay. Well,
That
hey, look, I mean, as much as we have said about the Cowboys and their chances and what have you, the NFC East isn't very good. So Philly is our team in terms of the division, but the Cowboys could potentially win that division. And if you got a guy like him, that changes your defense. You play a horrible division, and you've got a chance. So maybe you win your division, you get in the playoffs. Anything can happen, I guess. They're potentially a contender. more so than where he is right now, right? I mean, there's no chance the Jets are going to do anything this year. Let's be honest, people. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to do anything. They're the Jets. They're not any good.
Well,
Bottom line.
the thing for the Cowboys is though they have to look at cap space. They just signed,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dak had signed his tender,
Yep.
for his contract.
Correct.
Adams, has 2 years remaining on his contract. He makes 3.6 this season, which isn't a huge cap number, but for next year, and they're going to have to get Prescott signed to a long-term deal for next year.
Yes.
His salary
Yes.
goes up to 9.9 million.
Yes. And you've got Amari
So
Cooper,
yeah,
and
I
yeah,
just don't. I don't know financially how the Cowboys could make it work.
it's ultimately it's probably going to be a disaster after this year. Let's be clear. I think it will.
Yeah,
And we talked
again,
about that, and you've said that, and I
yeah,
agree. Yeah, I think it's going to be bad.
yeah. I look at it, and you have basically Jones is pulling an Al Davis and just handing out money to his favorite guys, um, and not being realistic about it. And now, when
Yeah.
you have to now pay your quarterback, you're gonna have to make some tough decisions here.
Hmm.
And what are you gonna do? Um, and again, you have Mike McCarthy as a coach there.
Right.
You know,
Ultimately, we still don't have complete confidence in him as a head coach. Look, great coach for us for a long time in Green Bay, but he faltered in his last couple of years. Couldn't make the hard decisions. Get rid of Dom Capers. Change your offense. What changes will he make when he comes back to the NFL? And we really don't know the answer to that until we go through a season in Dallas and see what he does, right?
uh,
So
but
I don't have complete confidence in him. I don't know. I
I
really don't
think
know.
I really think he's going to run the same offense as he did in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he never
And
adapted his
offensively, they have a lot of
offense.
talent, though, coach. I mean, they have a lot of talent on offense.
I don't trust Mike McCarthy to make good play calls.
Sure. And
Um,
that's the problem, right? You know, yeah.
you just look at it, and I don't know how you can be confident as a Cowboy fan in his play calling. He had probably you had Aaron Rodgers in the prime, and you won one Super Bowl, and that was because
Hmm.
the defense was played lights out in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You couldn't
Well,
even
I
get
mean, and,
back to
and,
that
and they
game.
did, but I mean, Rodgers played his brand of football, if you want to call it that, and he played it well to complement them.
Right.
And from
You
there,
just
I mean, really, Rodgers played lights out the next year, but defensively they went downhill, and I don't think that was addressed early on enough. And that's
well,
my
I
personal
look
thought.
at it this. I think McCarthy wants. He so went into I'm going to control every aspect because Aaron Rodgers is so good, and that's
Hmm.
what led to the offensive falter those last couple of years.
Yeah.
So now my concern is that he's going to go the total opposite and give a ton of freedom to his offensive guys to kind of make adjustments on the fly.
Right.
And it's going to be an utter disaster. It's going to be like when you had Des Bryant screaming and hollering on the sidelines and things like that.
I'm gonna
And
do whatever I want. Yeah.
and McCarthy's never been a guy that has had a real, great control over his locker room. He always, leaned on his veteran guys, and I don't
And
know.
in Green Bay, they did a good job of keeping that under control. But in Dallas,
Right.
I mean, personalities are rampant. you have to be a tyrant to control that. And that's where Jimmy was a tyrant and could deal with a Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't that way, like a Jason Garrett, then you're just prone to do whatever Jerry wants, and it kind of falls apart. And then you have 8 and 8 seasons over and over again because you
Right,
have a lot of
exactly.
talent, but you can't do anything with it.
Right. So we'll get into more of the individual teams here as training camp unfolds.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I don't, unless the Jets get a great deal for
Yeah.
Jamal, that he's not going anywhere. He's under contract for 2 years, and they could tag him in. So technically, they have him for 3 more years.
Right.
You know, can he technically sit out? Yeah, but you know what? You might want to go talk to your teammate Le'Veon Bell, see how well that worked out for him. Um, you
I
know,
don't. I think
I'm
he
just being honest.
regrets every minute he went to the Jets. Let's be clear here, huh?
I think you look at it and how much money he lost by sitting out that season.
Yeah.
He lost so much money, and he's never going to make that back up. Now,
Nope.
he's a running back. Jamal, plays in the secondary. Those guys tend to have a little longer lifespan in the NFL. But when you sit out a year, you get an aura to you, and players aren't going to come
Yeah.
out and say, "Oh yeah, he thinks he's better." They're not going to come out and say that in public. But I'll tell you right now, deep down, they look at Le'Veon Bell and be like, "Whatever, dude."
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to come out publicly say it because they'd be basically ending their career.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
But yeah, like you said, I mean, you step into a locker room, and if you're that guy, quote unquote, um, they don't forget that. They're not going to let that
yeah,
drop. They're going to remember that, and that's
so
going to carry with you as a player. Yeah.
so Jamal, before he sits out, he might want to talk to Le'Veon Bell to see how it's worked out for him.
Right.
Other than that, Lone Wolf, like I said, those are the biggest things that really in the last week. I shouldn't say it, Vince Carter finally retired.
Oh, yes.
Called it. He officially called it a career. um, so he's done. No longer part of the NBA. But other than that, there's not too much more that went
And
on.
honestly, it's about time. I mean, look, the guy's been playing forever. He's a great player, but
Yeah,
hang it up, dude.
yeah, it was time.
Yeah, it was
You
time a
know,
couple seasons ago, but yeah, okay, yeah.
so
No, I don't have anything else. I think touching on the major sports, we got there. This is a hard era to be for the major sports. It's a hard, and we can criticize some of them, and we have, and it's difficult for some of them. But I think we justifiably will criticize some because look, I mean, you guys can talk to each other, right? I mean, can't the commissioner of baseball pick up the phone and call the commissioner of the NBA and say, "Hey, I see this is what you guys are doing. Maybe we should think about it." I mean, is it really that hard? So,
but
so
here's the reason they won't.
yeah,
There's one word for it: ego.
yeah, yeah,
Seriously,
yeah. No, I
they
know.
all
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah,
I and I
it's
think it's
amazing, but
just
you're right. I mean, no, it's you're right. Yeah,
you know you know I think the commissioners all think they are these supreme beings, and you know, like even Goodell. I'll sit here and
mm,
criticize him continuously because he all his stuff he's said lately about
apologizing for the kneeling instead of they, you know
Yeah.
what, we reviewed our policy and we're changing our
Don't-
policy. No, you
Fine.
apologize.
Don't
And
say
now
you're sorry. Just change your policy or
and now
whatever you're gonna do. Just yeah, come on.
and then you're not gonna come out and say it, but you're kind of hinting that, hey, a team should sign Kaepernick.
Don't say that.
It's stuff
Right.
like that
Yeah.
just rubs me the wrong way with him. I think the best commissioner in all the major sports right now is Silver for the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically says this is what we're gonna do. I've talked to the union, and here's our plan.
Yeah, I mean the guy's got a handle on things and he's level-headed about it, and the players. It feels like the players are in tune with what he's saying and they're respecting him. So yeah,
Right.
yeah. But
So
I just wish that would be the case. These other sports would maybe talk to each other in some way, shape, or form, or at least observe what the other sports are doing. You know, I know what you mean. Hey, it's ego. It is. It totally
yeah,
is. These guys
it's
say, I know what I'm doing. Don't you worry about it.
right, exactly. And that's what it's all about, ego, and and you can't move forward until you put your ego aside, and that's where I think baseball is really in trouble. Even if they do play the season, I think they're in trouble because I believe
Still told you, I don't
that
know. I am still having reservations. I don't think it's going to happen.
so we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll know. We'll know more. Each week we go here, we'll know more. And we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what some of the fallout is for next week, and then what we got going on. Next week, because after next week we get into July and we're starting to really ramp up for training camps.
Yeah.
And the NBA will shortly be getting started again. And
very soon, yeah.
So we'll see what's going on here. In a week, we're gonna start picking up here. When it picks up, it's gonna pick up fast.
I think so. I think you're right.
And I think there's gonna be so much to talk about. We're not gonna get to it all. Yeah, and because when we first started the show, it was supposed to be an hour, and we've been stretching it to about an hour and a half.
Well, and yeah, I think there's been a lot to talk about. So it's amazing, even though there hasn't been a lot of sport activity. We've been talking about a lot of different things just because it dipped into other realms, and we've had a lot of things to go over. So,
right,
once these things start kicking into gear, man, there's going to be so much. We're going to have to cut it down so we can fit it into less time.
Or we're gonna have to go rapid fire on some stuff.
Sure, right, exactly. Yep. PTI style,
right,
30
exactly.
seconds. Here you go, and that's all you got.
That's right. So, want to thank everybody for listening. Again, we are available. All our shows are available on YouTube. I'm almost up to date again. I'm all uploaded. Hopefully, in about 3 weeks, I'll have my high-speed internet back. So won't have a problem uploading stuff to YouTube. But all our shows are available on YouTube or on our website. That's up in our
or you can
bio.
find us on Facebook, which will also go to YouTube. Yep.
Everything ends up going back to YouTube anyway, so that's why I always just plug YouTube.
Sure. Just throwing that out there.
So, again, thanks everybody for listening. Be smart, be safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Night.